A fun application of working with strings is that you can actually cheer people on when they're using your programs. So let's write a function that turns a name into a cheer with at least 3 calls. Okay, so go ahead and make a copy of this one. All right, so go to File, save a copy in Drive. And then the first thing you want to do is think about how you might, construct this. And, it's always good to have a little plan in advance. And after you develop a plan, you can maybe start with the coding. So we know it's going to be a function. So def. And we can simply call this a cheer function since that's what it is. So I'll call it cheer. And inside of parentheses, okay, it's going to be somebody's name. So you could put name in there. And so that seems clear. Okay, so how do you cheer on somebody's name in text? Well, there's some different strategies here. There's not really a right or a wrong. One thing you could do is you could convert the name to all uppercase using the .upper method. Okay, so perhaps I'm going to redefine name as name.upper. Okay, and then I could also have a sort of an opening, like, are we going to say go, for instance? Okay, well, maybe there's an opening phrase. This could be modified. Go, and then, I think that can be kind of fun. And then you could have a closing, and the closing might be like, an exclamation mark. And you don't have to do it like this. This is just a strategy because you could actually modify it, into some different cheers. And then so I basically want to put all these together. If it's going to be uppercase, I think it's good to do it all uppercase actually, which is fine. And so the closing also, we could repeat it, which is sort of a fun idea. So maybe something like this. And so we're going to have a sentence, and the sentence here, we'll call it a phrase perhaps. Don't want to use the word cheer again, is going to be what? Well, it's going to be an F string that uses variables. And inside of that F string, the F string is with quotes, the curly brackets goes inside. So we've got the name has been converted. Sorry, we want the opening first. Okay. So we've got an opening followed by a name, followed by the closing. Now the closing, because it's punctuation, can actually come right after. Okay. And furthermore, okay, so here's the phrase. Yeah, it's closed. That does it once, and it says to do it 3 times. Now, if you want to do it on a new line each time, okay, so this is sort of interesting. You could do first of all, the closing. Let's start with the closing. The closing you could actually do, say, times 3, like triple sort of exclamation, right? This closing is a string, and so if you put closing times 3, it's going to show that string 3 times. And we can do a new line, okay, for the phrase, right? And the advantage of doing that is now we could do something like we could return the phrase times 3. And the whole phrase, right, is this whole F string, and it should do a new line so that we see it in a nice way where it comes sort of one cheer after another. Okay, certainly not the only way to do this. There are a lot of ways to do it. When you're putting up a lot of code like this, it would be common to not get it right in the first try. So let's see how it goes. Press Shift Enter to store it. Okay. And then we're going to call it, assuming that it actually saves properly. Sometimes, like if you get errors in the writing of the function, you won't actually notice until you call the function. So do note that. Okay, sometimes collab takes longer than others. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get ready for the cheer, and I can think about what name do I want to put in. It clearly states a name, and really like anybody's name is fine. I'll go with Josephine. And so now, okay, let's see what happens. Here's the big reveal. We're trying to make something sort of fun and interesting. So I press Shift Enter, and it did not do the new line. Okay, it got to go Josephine's. And I assume that's because it is in fact an F string. Okay, so that's interesting and a little bit unfortunate. So we can think, is there another way to actually get the new line? I mean, you could certainly like, show the phrase 3 times. And maybe if we print it, you don't have to return anything. Let me just try this. So if we print phrase times 3, okay, and you can't actually return nothing in a function. You need a return key, and there's actually a special keyword called none. Okay, so let's see if this works. So press Shift-Enter, and now let's try it again, cheer Josephine, and you can see it works beautifully as expected. Looks like there may be an extra line in there for the none, but that's a nice cheer. And so what did we catch here? So this new line, generally speaking, works well as the print function, but works well inside of print. But if you're returning a function, it's sort of like the display is different. Okay, the display, what you see is different than like the value of something. And I am a little curious. And I always think it's good to check things, right? So I'm a little curious. I'm going to try this one more time and see the following. So what if I return the printing of phrase times 3? Okay, that's sort of an interesting idea. Okay, so when I run this, I'm rewriting the function now. Let's cheer on a new name. How about Manal? And press Shift-Enter. And you can see it does work as expected. It's showing the same spacing. And so do note that subtlety, like if you're returning a function, this in is just going to carry, but if you show it, like you display it, then it works as such. And I suppose the other variation that we could try, let's go ahead and be thorough. This is how you learn about coding. Like, don't just, okay, I got it to work, I'm done. I mean, that's sometimes important. But you can also say, okay, well, let me explore this a little more. What if I print the function, okay? And so the idea here is what if I print, and this would be a common way of doing it. You want to print out to show it. And so let's go with another name. Okay, I'll go with the name Ashley. And now let's see what we get here. And you can see it works again. So the key is simply, it's nothing about the F string. It's simply printing it out. And do note that when you print out the escape new line, it works in 3 different ways we found exactly as expected.